let's go. Amy, then Rachel, then Brian. Who are
Fair
you?
enough.
What do you do?
I am Amy. I'm 14. I've been going to Pi Wars since the first Pi Wars started, but recently I've had my own team and I've done art for that. I also have some experience in like animation, but I don't do anything professionally because I am in school. So yeah.
Well, I think what you do, Amy, with your art is very professional, actually. Yes. So I'm Rachel. I am a PhD student working on using stem cells to grow eyeballs. Who am I? It's times like this, right, when I really question myself. Who am I actually?
All of us have an existential crisis live on
Yeah,
air.
no, it's too early in the session for that. We'll get there in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I make stuff. And you know, I think because of my science education, which from a very young age, I've just been science, and like my parents never really gave me any space to look at anything else. So I feel like it was only a matter of time where I had this explosion of art, and so this is where we are.
And it's a good place.
Oh, it's good.
And Brian, why on earth are you here?
I'm asking myself the same question. So yeah, I'm Brian. I've attended every Pi Wars. I've competed in a couple. I was surprised and flattered when Rob asked me to do this, but I feel a bit like an imposter sat next to these two.
Should I explain why you're here?
A maker more than an artist, but yeah, I do think that sort of aesthetics are very important. I get quite bogged down in aesthetics, and I'm pleased to be here.
I would be shocked if there's anyone at this conference that doesn't have imposter syndrome, at least from time to time.
That's much better.
Yep.
But too late. You're here. You're the panelist. You're the expert.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll try and pretend to be an expert.
For anyone that hasn't been in one of these before, this is the panel format where the audience is responsible for making sure that the panel is fun and entertaining.
Yeah, guys. So if it all goes wrong, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's on you. And what that means is we're going to be able to bring you on stage. If you click the little share button, then we can bring you on to ask questions to our panel. Otherwise, if you are feeling a little bit more shy, then you can ask questions in the chat, which I will repeat to our panel. And otherwise, I have a long list of pre-prepared questions, which I will start on while you're getting warmed up. So in case anyone actually doesn't know why Brian is here, it's because he won the art prize at Taiwan in 2018 for his very beautiful Minnie Mouse. And it actually, that whole event made me re-evaluate what is an artistically great robot, because I'd looked at Minnie Mouse and been really impressed with it technically. And when it won the art prize, I was really surprised because there were a lot of robots that I thought were like traditionally artistic. Maybe
good concept, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the concept. It was
Yeah.
the way that the whole thing was like. It was the vision was realized. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had this thing that he pulled out of the ether.
I knew what I wanted, and
The way
I
I saw it was because there are a lot of robots that were built, and then
the judge for that, weren't you?
design was like a second thought. It was an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, there's artistic merit too. Let's add a little bit here and there, get some points. But what I saw in Brian's robot was that design came first, followed by everything trying to fit into that design.
So here, respectively, we have the winner, the judge, and the runner-up.
Well, now I expect to see a Pico version of the mouse.
They have to change the rules to let you not use a full-size Raspberry Pi, and then maybe.
Well, we've always been allowed to use any Raspberry Pi of our choice. So, and the Pico is a Raspberry Pi, right?
They've clarified.
In my first Pi Wars, the robot I entered was Arduino. Who was gonna tell me? Who was gonna tell me? And I think I still won the award for like most blinky or something from gym because you did it LEDs divided by age.
I remember the winners the first year. Their whole bot was running on like a microcontroller, and they did have a Raspberry Pi in there, but it was basically just a Bluetooth dongle to talk to their controller.
Was that the tiny
Literally
one?
everything else. No, it was like I just remember it had a laser on the front that it used like a laser line projector and a camera to tell how far away things were.
Well, the first year there was a tiny robot, and that's when they still had sumo, so it had to go up against the massive pirate ship. In
Yeah, I think
sumo.
that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
other Brian, right?
So the pirate ship is what I was thinking of, but I was thinking of art guys. Yeah? It's like a kind of that's like the decoration side of things, and I guess those are the two. They're what I think of as the two main camps of artistic merit in Pi Wars. But maybe I'm wrong. Does that sound right to you? That there's people that like take a box and tart it up, and then there's people that do the whole concept.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, I think the pirate ship was also, like the way that they started out their robot. I feel that they had already a design in mind and a theme, which I feel is a very strong point to prove that they have, art on their mind and it isn't an afterthought. Yeah, like having a story is, I feel, very important to say that, you did this in a certain way because this was what you wanted at the end. Yeah.
So this brings me into how you go about judging Pi Wars art. Rachel, you've been a judge. I would find it incredibly difficult to make those kinds of decisions. What is it that you look for in a robot when you're judging? So the story you've already told us is a key thing, but it's got to be more than that, right? There's got to be like the implementation. It's got to be on point.
Bribery is great. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Because I've seen like quite a lot of robots like on Twitter. I would get tagged and they'd be like, "Hey, I added a unicorn sticker just for you." Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I do give points as long as you've made the effort to show me that you've taken art into consideration or your design. And I feel that a lot of people, when they bring their robot to me, they get very lost in what to say. And I mostly say that, as long as you've designed, including designing your PCB, how you want your wires to be laid out, the whole process of, even the whole process of tidying up your robot, I would say is considered an artistic view. So yeah, I mean, I do give higher points to those who it's quite obviously has put in quite a lot of effort, and they will go about their tail. Even those who may have created their artistic view or their final project out of simple things, not necessarily NeoPixels, basic art and craft things, like ice cream sticks and things like that. At the end of the day, what they tell me is in their head and what they wanted to produce. As long as I can see it there, I do believe their story. I will give them higher points because it's pretty clear that this is something you put quite a bit of time into. And when someone doesn't put time into something, you can see it's a last minute thing. You can see it. It's like no matter how you spin a tail, it's pretty obvious. So yeah, some things I do take into consideration is how much thought you have put into it, including from the very, very basics, PCB design, how you design your shell, whether or not you added this Lego figure because it adds to your tail and things like that. And all of that adds up.
Oh, I remember the ones with all the didn't he win like the Heart of Pi Wars or something like that? That the one with all of the little Lego figures and the.
Yeah, there was I think there was like a young children's group that had a lot of little figures.
I'm name dropping so many robots that I can't remember any of the names of people who made them. I'm so sorry for that.
I tried to remember. I tried to take photos of every single robot that showed up, but yeah.
You mentioned using like recycled. You mentioned using like recycled materials. That's like really common in all of the student robots, and it's so heartwarming because like I remember one year somebody like cut off the label from the back of their jumper and stuck it onto the back of the robot.
Yeah, that was a very I think it was a very young group of participants, and it was just amazing because they just feel like the way that I see how they want to incorporate a part of themselves into the robot, and it's just just the way they think about how their robot should look like, or how they can attach a piece of them to the robot is something I find very interesting. And just a simple thing like that reflects on how they've thought about it artistically.
So yeah, these things are like an expression of ourselves, aren't they? They're our avatars that are dueling on our behalf.
I wouldn't go that far. I'm not the anthropomorphic personification of Little Shop of Horrors, unfortunately. I would kill for that aesthetic.
You in that, right? That's what you're putting out there to the world.
Yeah,
conscious thing. I'm sure it comes out eventually.
Time to become a carnivorous plant, boys.
You're not going to be invested.
Super high tech thing going on, and it's all in this. It's all in this very dainty package.
I mean, like personally, I feel like I change. I guess you can say persona every once in a while, and I reflect that by the way I dress. So sometimes I feel like I want to dress like a little old lady, like a little posh old lady with pearls and stuff. And sometimes I'm in streetwear because I'm feeling street style. So it's just, I think what you do, how you express yourself is, even if it's art that's really abstract and far away, it's a piece of you. And I guess it's one of those things that's very similar to what you dream at night, where you can't control. And it's just something in your subconscious.
I dress to match the PowerPoint slides in my art talk because they're black and yellow. I'm just a bumblebee.
So we have a question from chat, going on to something that Rachel was mentioning about the judging. You were talking about the story of the robots, and Terry is saying, "What is your ultimate robot story?"
That's a good question.
So, do you have a favorite narrative that went with any robot?
Let me think. I can't think of any particular one, to be honest. I have really bad memory, but I think the one that Amy said about how the children in the school, because they didn't have especially because they didn't have that very many resources, they built a very basic robot, and so to them, because especially because it's a team of them, and I guess because they're so young, they don't know how to come together with a theme. So to them, it's like, I'm just going to attach a tiny bit of myself there. And then they just go around feeling really proud about it. And I think that's just a very simple but amazing story of just how, it's a reflection of the work that they've put in. And even though it's all little bits of individual, non-cohesive bits, at the end of the day, they're all like, are trying to show that, we've contributed this part. So I think that's very simple story, but I feel it's also very meaningful. And I think that people shouldn't be too lost in a story as well, because when you describe something with passion, it can be super simple, but if you're describing something that isn't truly yours, it shows. It can, if that makes sense.
Life advice on being authentic. I talked to the teacher who was, and it was very clear that she'd explained to all of them how everything worked if they hadn't done it themselves. Like, that was the group of the children you're talking about that you said was your ultimate story. That was just really heartwarming, really good.
And so and I think it's one of those things that's very memorable as well.
My stylus fell on the floor.
I think my favorite one that encompassed a whole story was, there was one that was like a brain one year, and it was literally just a brain in a glass globe, and it had like a smoke machine and flashing lights, and you could just look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's BrainBot. Clearly it's a brain robot.
I just saw a question from the chat.
There was one that I really liked was also when they make a robot based, it's not it's not an original theme, but for example, one of the WALL-E robots, it wasn't just, I'm going to make a robot that looks like WALL-E. No, I'm also going to dress like the captain, because it's all part of the package.
Yeah, that was so good.
And I think, that was still something that I really, really enjoyed. Because,
on the space theme, there were like 3 WALL-Es, I want to say, but only one man took up the honor
Like no matter if there are 3 Wallies, all of them belongs to the captain. You know,
Damn
the
right.
captain owns the Wally.
Wally.
Right, and Brian had the accessory with his mouse.
I hit a
where it
little
was like
bag.
a bell thing. I thought that was a really nice touch.
All of
Yeah,
these
so-
things
so
are
yeah,
just
really-
practical, though, right? You can't hold a controller and a robot and everything at the same time. You've got to have a holster,
You've
obviously.
got to have a mouse holster, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no,
On which
that was
note?
great.
Where is the pocket slave?
Definitely extra artistic merit points
got
because you
a,
made the foam as
question.
well to fit them
Someone asked-
perfectly.
Where's the pocket cloth? In a previous year, I made some little cloth stickers to cut out and spread around. That might have been for something different, but I also brought the cloth along with me. The firewalls. The cloth is upstairs, and I don't want to go up and get him because there's a cat sleeping on my lap. I'm very sorry. Have I lost audio?
No, we're with you.
No, you're sounding a bit fluffy, but I'm sure it'll come back. There's something a bit funny going on. I'm gonna keep on with the questions.
I
I hope
can't
that it
hear
sorts
any
itself
of you.
out. Oh yeah, okay. She's off. Let's try and bring her back. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thanks, Rob.
She can't hear any of us.
Hello.
Okay. We're going to just have to continue and hope that you come back. Right. We started having an interesting discussion in the makers chat earlier about STEAM and STEM.
Mm.
Yay!
Okay,
Hello. Sorry.
that's all right. I was just starting on my STEAM question. There is Robert Karpinski says there is only STEM. I think some people on this panel might disagree with that and say there is some STEAM as well.
Do you
potentially.
know what? He's lying. Okay, for his job, his day job, he makes PCBs, right? And on every single PCB he's made, he draws this little otter because his boss likes otters. So for him to say
That's
STEM, he's
just
lying.
crawling.
I think my background blur's gone. Yeah, I completely agree. You were talking about how design is integral to. Yes, I think art and STEM are very different, but I think that it's important to consider both whenever you're designing anything, because design is about utility, but also aesthetics.
I mean, I think that it's very hard to say that one field of specialty is restricted to a single field. It's almost impossible that there is no, interdisciplinary mixing, and it's just like
your entire thing of wearable tech is proof against that.
But I mean, even if it comes to medical fields, designing medical equipment, growing eyeballs, and it's a complete mixture. That's it. Like you need to have engineers, you need to have mathematicians, you need someone with designing skills to, create something that isn't absolutely ridiculous because someone else in the field doesn't know what they're doing. It's impossible that they don't mix.
There are so many really good examples of just little pieces of fantastic design everywhere, and whether you consider that STEM or STEAM.
So my personal take is that even utilitarian design is art.
Yes.
Because you don't know what's going to be you don't really have like the computer model that shows you this door handle is the ultimate door handle. You've put your own design into how the door handle works.
The one platonic ideal of a door handle.
Yeah.
Will it open?
I mean, it's like chairs, for example, office chairs. A chair has a very, very basic structure, right? 4 legs. Some chairs don't even have a backrest, but oh my God, when you have that backrest, that design that is made for your back and your neck, it makes a huge difference, isn't it? You'd rather choose a chair with a backrest that was designed for your comfort over something that has no back and you're going to sit there for hours. And then there's all those new chairs where you don't even sit like a normal person anymore. Some of them you're kneeling, you're squatting, and it's all good for your posture.
I sit like that normally anyway.
Yeah, I think there's all these you just have to look at these massive art projects where someone's got 500 clocks all forming another clock or something, and those are engineering marvels as well as art projects, right? So I think that
I'm
proves
trying to
that
figure
they
out how
really
the
are
clock one would
interrelated.
work. That's an amazing example. Is that real?
Yeah, well, I can't dig it out now.
Okay. Send me the clock, please.
So maybe
Well, there's the
someone can
one where
find
the
it.
hands of the clock make like letters
Yeah,
in a
that
sort
the
of an
hands of the
eight-segment
clock
display,
make the letters of like a digital clock.
or like a
Oh,
7-segment display.
but how
Yeah,
would
yeah.
the? I thought it would be the other way around, because then they would change color, and that would make the normal clock. Yeah, please send
No,
me
you just
the clock.
invented a new thing there.
I'm sure someone in chat can dig it out. There we go.
Yeah, there we
Tim.
go. Tim coming up with the goods.
I think A would be also, instead of art, could be a good substitute for architecture, because I feel like when people say architecture, um, they would have a better I mean, if you associate art with architecture, I think a lot of people would have a better understanding of what actually art encompasses, because I feel that the stereotype of what art means is actually just like paintings and things like that, but really it's just building a structure or building something that can attract people, instead of something that doesn't fit well.
And so, Amy, do
Hi.
you think the art aspect of Pi Wars has made you more engaged with it?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I'm not the best at computer programming. I'm currently studying it, but I'm not the best at it. I wouldn't say I'm the best at art either, but it's been a chance to practice both 100%, and I wouldn't have spent as much time on Pi Wars all the previous years if I hadn't been drawing graphics or painting it or whatever. So yeah.
See, that was a leading question, because I think that this is another important angle for Steam, is that Steam is like it can be, even if you don't value art for art's sake, it can be like a trick to get people who wouldn't otherwise engage with these subjects into doing STEMmy things.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's an art aspect to it. And I value the art for a completely like the opposite perspective. As somebody who isn't currently in the education system, I'd already got the background in like doing computery stuff, but I haven't had an artistic outlet at all since I stopped painting miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. That was like the last artistic thing that I did many years ago. And since Pi Wars, that world has just opened back up to me, and I've got back to painting things and making pretty patterns on things.
I'm glad.
And it's just a lovely sort of recultivating of that interest, but thanks to the sort of the cross pollination of the subjects for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible at. I used to say I'm really bad at art. That's why I do science. Because I can't draw, I can't paint,
No,
I can't do any like freehand thing. There's a lot of things that I can do, which I consider artistic, would be to be able to recognize something which is in line with my aesthetic, basically. Yeah, and then I'll just be able to put those things together. But I can't, do those traditional art things like painting, or drawing. I'm the kind of artist that needs to follow a certain rule or a certain line. Like, for example, I'm very bad with freestyle things. Like for me, like I love cross stitch. Cross stitch is something I just learned, and the reason why I love it, I realized, is because I like making the back of it look nice. So not the front, but the back. Like
it's like organizing wires.
like I really like focus on how the back should be really neat, and just things like that, have less crossovers, and I'm not so focused on the front. And then I realized yesterday when I started using a different kind of thread, that because the texture was different, it completely threw me off. So and I find that a lot of traditional art seems to be very freestyle. Like, someone's like, oh, I have this idea in my head, I'm going to paint it. But for me, it has to fit like certain box, certain dimension.
And that's why I do digital art.
I think it's really interesting, and it's something that I've previously engaged with artistically. The idea of having a constraint and working within the bounds of that constraint can actually force you to be
100%.
creative where you wouldn't
100%.
otherwise. Minecraft is a classic example for me, where having these big blocks, and there's like, I don't know, 128 of them or 256 of them or whatever, and you've got to create your thing just using that toolkit in that scale, and show me what you got.
Agree.
And this is,
Yeah.
I feel like an aesthetic, like Rachel's got this very strong kawaii, cute aesthetic going on through a lot of the stuff that you do. In a way, that's like a constraint, isn't it? That's giving you a framework that you can push the
I only work with
boundaries
certain colors.
Yeah, going back on what you said about that earlier, Rachel, creating like mood boards or groups of things into an aesthetic is 100% art. I mean, not to get on the what is art topic, that's like philosophy, but anything like that is definitely art.
You're fine, go for it.
Oh, okay. Wait, how long is this?
No, okay. Right? We can go until 3:30 if you want. Officially, we only go until 15:15, but we'll see how
So I think that constraint thing's useful, right? Because when you're starting out with Pi Wars, you've got this blank slate of what am I going to do? And so for me, especially for the mouse, I was like, well, I can just set this constraint that I want to build it inside a mouse, and then everything else kind of fell in place from there. So yeah, I've been kind of using the aesthetic as a constraint, as the starting constraint when everything else is pretty much free, because all of the tech we've got and the resources we've got these days, you can do whatever you want outside of that. You've got to pick somewhere to start.
Everyone in the chat loves the mouse. It's a good mouse. It is actually a perfect example of that, of constraint.
Yeah.
And then,
well, and Pi Wars is itself quite constrained. Like, we already have the basic set of rules about how big the thing's got to be, and Brian's just gone the next step.
But you can fit so much in like a A4 size box, right? And I think, like you said earlier, Rob, some people, or a lot of the robots, and the mouse included, are just 4 wheels on a box at the end of the day. And if the only constraint I had was 4 wheels on a box that fit inside an A4 piece of paper, I think I would get lost in tons and tons of little attachments and all the things I could possibly do. Whereas setting yourself a restriction, like the other bot I made with the LED matrix on the top, I needed to keep the camera view completely clear so the camera could see the floor, and that meant that I couldn't put it's a relatively big robot, but I couldn't put anything inside of it because it got in the way of the camera, and so that really influenced everything about that design. Was the one starting point of, cool, I want a screen on the top that makes it invisible.
You know what I think is also very regrettable? There used to be no height limit on robots. It just A4 piece of paper, no height limit, and they got rid of that. Where was the giraffe robot? We can't anymore.
Oh,
it's such a shame. It would have taken lots of resources. I don't think I would have been the one to make the giraffe robot, but it could have happened. But it's too late. I don't know what the height limit is now, but there is one now. So no 1 meter tall, no 1 meter tall robot.
Do you think you'd win by default if your robot didn't fit in the building? Or would you lose by default? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, but was it the what rules? You couldn't get disqualified, could you? Just
it's the can we come up with the Pi Wars cheese
in the challenges, I guess. Too swaggy.
you could make a giraffe that like gets decapitated for different challenges.
No!
From what I've seen, like a lot of people, for the Nerf challenge, the shooting duck challenge, a lot of people add on their attachments, and then it becomes like a different shape and a different height, so you could have that sort of giraffe.
Oh, that's one thing that my dad did, which was came up with, which was very design orientated. One year, we were the Nerf challenge. We were told you could either shoot or you could throw a ball, and we were like, oh. My dad came up with the idea. All credit to him. I realized on the video today, I didn't credit my dad for editing it. Thank you, Dad. Very cool. I didn't credit him in the video. I'm so sorry.
Well,
But he made a slope, so the ball would fall down and laser, so you could aim it, and it we won. We either won or we came second for that challenge, and then the year after, everyone was gonna do it, and then they were like, "Nope, sorry, no slide. It's too overpowered." They needed to nerf us. We were too powerful. Punished for our hubris.
I think in the chat it was choice paralysis was brought up, and that's something that actually I want to talk about as well, because okay, I'm incredibly indecisive, but at the same time I like having choice. I don't like having to buy something and there's only one choice, and that usually that choice would be a monotone, boring ass color. Boring color. And I just like, why do you have to do that? Can't you give us something nicer? Like, okay, I think I say this because I realize that choice exists. So for example, I'm always comparing with I guess you could say Asian countries. If you've been to Taiwan, Japan, or Korea, when you buy something from the shop, instead of getting just a plastic bag, a boring, plain, white plastic bag, the plastic bag can come with a little teddy bear on it that says hi or thank you. And you just buy your item, you look at the plastic bag, and your life is so much better. So I'm like, why can't we implement the same thing here? Having just options or different things than the usual thing. Like for example, like computer monitors. Why do they have to come in black colors? Like when you can have so many colors exist. Why don't you use it? And I feel like it adds a lot to your life. And I feel like people don't realize that when you can have something of your favorite color and it's just there sitting on your desk, you're like,
serotonin.
Yeah, this is the joy of my workplace. It's just these little simple things.
I'm suddenly feeling very self-conscious in my black fleece.
I mean, look, I'm wearing hoodies with bows. Like, why would I wear a plain hoodie? I want to wear hoodies with bows, and it makes me feel
very cute.
So yeah, it's just these little things that I feel can add so much more to life, but it's often not considered because it's not. I don't know. It's not the norm yet.
Also, going back to what you said about being black is my favorite color too. Good for you, man.
He's wearing a lot more color now.
About being paralyzed by indecision. I think that's what's really good for any creative people with having a project like Pie Wars. Because if you tell me to draw, give me no constraints. It's kind of hard to come up with something compelling to practice a range of things, whatever. But doing projects like, I don't know, making PMVs, doing Pie Wars, whatever, it's a lot better. You can figure out, it's good to have constraints.
It's so like, for your robot,
which one?
Instead of whichever that has your art on it. Instead of having your status of your robot to just say, whether it's on or off, you have that goodbye, and was it a squirrel running away?
Yes.
Everyone who sees it will be like, oh, that's incredible, because it adds something to each person's life that has come across it.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. It's not that deep, but yeah, thank you.
No, I would go that far. It absolutely does.
Like, people remember how you make them feel.
Daniel Staple asks, is that bookshelf behind Rachel pink or white and reflecting all the other pink?
It might probably be white if you see it from Robert's angle. It's just it's probably reflecting all the other pink.
Yeah.
Like this house. So I share the office with Rob, which is on that side. But this half is significantly, well, this half is mine. That's the difference.
bit of art terminology there. When light bounces off some things of different colors, the shadows, it's called bounce light.
Yeah, I've also got a bit of like a orange hue light on, so that's probably adding to it.
LEDs.
I have some more art questions for you, and you've just touched on this a little bit with bounce light. I've recently got for myself my favourite new toy, which is an amazing tool which lets me do artistic techniques that I never knew how to do before, but now I can do them. And it's an airbrush, and it's changed my life. So
as in digitally or in real life?
An absolute real airbrush for painting robots with. So now I can. I've got my
that's very cool.
tone colours that I can do. So I can do some proper paint jobs on the future robots. And the next robots you see from me are going to look amazing. But that's my top tip, my secret technique. What is your secret technique, your top tip that lets you get great results and nobody knows how you do it? Share it now.
Me and Dad use like stuff for train sets when we're making foliage. And he likes to watch all of, those little like mini panoramas. He got really into watching those like ages ago, and we had practice making school projects like a World War II panorama. It looked great. So we had a bit of practice doing that. So we used the foliage, the spray on grass, and also for our last robot, we went out and brought a spray can and some gas masks and sprayed our robot down. It probably would have been much more effective to use an airbrush, but it was so cool. I felt so cool with my spray can and my gas mask.
I think that's quite a tricky question. What's my secret that makes
You've seen all of the robots. What works well? Painting on cakes. Like cake paint? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can spray food
I'm very
coloring
dumb. Cake paint? Food coloring. I'm very smart, guys.
Well, I mean, yeah, on the topic of, I guess, spray paint. I've recently been using a lot of spray paint. But it's the Montana Gold spray paint, and it's amazing. It's a some sort of professional spray paint, probably way too professional for what I needed it for. I was spraying acorns. I think they're called acorns. Yeah, not pine cones. They call pine cones. Yeah, I always get confused between those two. Yeah. Yeah, and they look edible at the end of it. They look like those, the cakes. Well, cakes nowadays look like everything else. So
I'm secretly
now they make cakes look like everything, and they cut into it, and you're like, it's cake. Yeah, so I think, making things professional. I think it's up to interpretation. Like, I try to make things in my shop look like they've been manufactured, as in, like it was made in a factory and not by me. But at the same time, I feel like you don't want to go too far. You do want to add a little touch of handmade, because I feel like now that's something that's really much more appreciated. People are willing to pay more for like independent sellers. They want to know how the product is made. They want to know where it's come from, how it's sourced. So even though
like
I think there's a lot of, I think even though like people do in general enjoy things looking quite perfect, I always feel, for me, a touch of handmade, a touch of imperfection really adds character.
So I think on your question, Rob, and it comes back to something Rachel said earlier about not being able to do like hand drawing or painting or any of that stuff. So I try and lean pretty heavily on maths, basically. And if there's like a helix is just a nice structure, right? and it's got a well-defined mathematical formula. So you don't have to be able to draw to make a helix, and you don't have to be able to draw to make kind of sweeping organic shapes. You can just put a few circles together and connect them together with other circles. So
Turtles.
so that's kind of what I lean on, I would say, in terms of trying to make things look nice, is not leaning on my very bad artistic ability, and using maths instead.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if I answered Rob's question now that I think about it. I got quite confused in the middle as I was trying to say.
We went on a whole rant about cakes. How did we
Yeah.
get there?
But then now that Brian has answered the question, I'm like, wait a minute, what was I talking about? But yeah, I think for me, wait, your question, I got confused after what Amy said, but your question was on how. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Tips on making your robot look good.
What is your?
What is my secret technique for my?
We started
art,
talking about cakes,
right? Yeah. Okay. So
That's the beauty of the panel format. We can talk about what
I think
we like.
I've not really thought about it as like my secret technique, because I feel like a lot of my art, even though I think it has a sense of originality to it, I don't feel like it's particularly unique, I would say, because I feel like there is a lot of very similar things that exist out there, and a lot of my inspiration comes from a lack of creative side in my day job. So I feel like it's like I'm like all pent up, after doing all this like science stuff, and then I come home and I'm like, oh my god, I have so many ideas. I want to do this, I want to do that, and then I'll go on Instagram and look at the things that are most relevant to what I have in my mind, and then I'll see all these amazing creatives, and then it just sparks something in me, and then I'll be like, okay, what materials have I got in this house, and what materials I need to order. And yeah, I would say that is really it. Like my secret weapon is just being inspired and being excited about little things. I could be on my walk home and I'll see something and I'll be like, oh my god, what if I make this out of that? Just being able to feel excited about little things, being amused about little things. Yeah, I would say that is my secret weapon, and amplifying it.
And Surit says in the chat, yeah, Brian, you're totally being modest. If you want to see what Brian can do with maths, go check out his blog post about making his engagement ring.
Yeah, I saw that one.
This is how maths.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, but there's no way how to say, I have to use the helix function, right? Because I haven't got anything else to use.
Yeah.
Brian has a couple of points. He says, keeping your wiring neat. Obviously, we've heard from Rachel that this is like the number one thing that your robot's going to be judged on, is having neat wiring. She's going to open it up and have a rummage around inside there.
Well, that depends. Some people have been like, oh, we're going for the intestine messy look.
Frankenstein's robot.
Yeah, that was my research. And one that I agree completely with is having a color palette that you can use across the robot, using the same type of fixings throughout, keeping everything on the theme throughout the robot. I would agree with is a way to just make everything look that bit nicer, rather than just using a mishmash of all kinds of different stuff, which I'm absolutely guilty of. But at least I put it underneath the shell and painted it all to look the same color afterwards.
So there's a question then: when you're building Lego, do all of the pieces have to be the same color, or is the full-on rainbow?
Yeah,
depends what you're going for. Depends what you're going for.
I
think there's
a good question.
I literally bought loads of yellow Lego just so I could.
I'm in the same color palette camp. Yeah, I'm more a fan of the same color than the mishmash.
I think I started.
Yeah.
You got to have a few highlights.
I started out as same color camp, and
like,
then I've started to be more open to, because I just feel like, I used to be like pink. same color can pink, everything pink. Like one of my friends visited my room when I was in high school, and he said that it feels like someone threw up in here because it's all pink. Yeah, and then I realized that there is a lot of color combinations that can go really well together. So I feel like I've kind of like opened up that door, and now I see that there is like, I think if you can, go with it artistically, it can look really nice. You can in fact form patterns out of it, like instead of just a normal brick wall, you can have heart shapes with the colors. Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah, I think what I tend to do if I'm doing a color palette in design theory, you have like some adjacent colors and then some highlights, right? So have a lot of colors that are similar or the same, or like 2 or 3 that you use a lot, and then like a few highlight colors,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we're getting towards the end of our time here today, unfortunately. So I'm gonna ask chat if you've got any final questions for our panel. And while they think about that, I'm going to ask you one last question from me, which is, you're obviously all my artistic heroes. But who are your artistic heroes? Who are your influences? Who do you look up to? Is there one person or one YouTube channel, one person or a famous artist from history, whatever it might be? Who's your top influence?
There are so many art YouTubers I follow.
I'm going to pick one of
Mepity is like a animation and illustration YouTuber. ABD Illustrates does lots of like D&D illustrations that they've all left my mind. But I have so many inspirations. My art style changes so often because of that. But yeah, the internet. I am a zoomer.
I'm gonna have to like similarly cop out. No offense, Amy.
That's exactly what I did.
I don't pick favorite anything, and it drives my wife mad. Like, I don't have a favorite food. I don't have a favorite film. I don't have a favorite color or whatever. Because it's too boring, right? You can't just have one thing that you look at and that you look up to.
Well, good thing you have a favorite wife. That would be a problem.
Well, that's easy, right? You only have one, but there's loads and loads of different foods.
I weigh you down, food. Food's a tough one.
Yeah, I think.
Rachel, can we get anything a little bit more committal from you, like name
literally something that's good, something you enjoy,
that you like?
I think that's really hard. First of all, okay, I don't have a background in art. So I don't have anyone of very much knowledge in, like traditional art, all those painters and stuff like that. I would go to an art museum and I would just like have to have my own interpretation for everything. So unfortunately, the only name I can give you is Pinterest and Instagram. Yeah, and I think it
that's fine. We don't come across the name Pinterest very
superiority.
Often, so it's
like I make all my mood boards from Pinterest. And it's just like, I guess for me, because art is my freeing space. I don't necessarily like look up to one person. I guess it's different for me, in terms of signs. I'd be like, I want to be this person. But because art for me is non-committal, it's like I do a bit of everything. I make, with a bit of everything, really. And so for me, when I'm interested in the thing of the moment, for example, I'm interested in cross stitching now. I'll just go on Instagram and search the term cross stitch, and then there's a bunch of artists. And then maybe when I get burnout from cross stitch, from having too many ideas, I move on to the next thing, like sewing, and then I just go on Instagram and search sewing. So that way, it really helps that I don't have like one person who does that one thing that I have to follow and then feel bad that I'm no longer like that person, or have that person to look up to. So yeah, that's for me.
So you've maybe just touched on and answered to a certain extent the final question of this session. Actually, we have two final questions. We have a question and a request. The request from Bethany is, can Oreo please make an appearance, Rachel?
My cat's been here the whole time and she's just stood up, so she's in shot now.
Okay, Oreo's actually awake, so you guys are lucky.
Yay! Oreo superiority.
And while we look at Oreo, does anyone want to answer Agatha's question about how you deal with burnout, design
Hello,
and
Oreo.
art? Hello, Oreo.
So flat.
I don't. Oh, can I go first? I love Oreo. Okay, so
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't very often get burnout from art as a whole because it's what I do when I'm bored anyway. But if you get burnout from a specific project, honestly, just take some time to yourself. Like doing challenges, getting prompts is a good way to recover from that if you've lost inspiration. But honestly, if you just feel like you don't want to do anything, then just chill, man. Just remind yourself of the things that inspire you, even if it's nebulous. And just try and find a way to regain inspiration. And if you can't, just chill. Don't feel bad about it. You know, breaks are good.
Yeah, I kind of have two hobbies. One is computer games and the other is making. And when I get bored of one, I go and do the other one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. But I have like 5 million projects going on at once. So if I get bored of one, I do another. Oh, my cat's gone. Goodbye.
Yeah, as for me, I experience burnout like all the time, and usually that is related to me having too many ideas. So when I've started so many new skills, so many new types of making because I experience burnout so frequently. And usually when I start something new, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make that. And then I learn this thing and I learn that thing. And now I have to combine everything. And oh, maybe I should start selling it on my Etsy shop. So because I have all these overload of ideas, what happens is that my ideas start going faster than I'm able to make what I have in mind. And that itself is just something that I end up having the battle in my head. So like a lot of mental health issues start creeping up there, you know, like I'm not able to fulfill what I want to do. I have way too many ideas and, you know, just pushing myself too hard. So that leads to burnout. And then I get bored of what I'm doing and I get frustrated. So the next thing I would do is then I'll pick up another project, you know, as Brian have said, just because I just need, first of all, time away from it, and time for me to get excited about something else. So that's one of the reasons why I have so many different kind of things that I work with. I have cross stitching, embroidery, sewing, wearable tech, everything. It's a bit of a problem when, you know, you have so many different kind of makes that you like as well, because then it means you have so many unfinished projects. But yeah, it's really important as well to be able to slow down. Writing down your ideas, writing down your thoughts are quite big things that can help you slow down, because then you don't have to keep everything in your brain. Just put it down a note and think to yourself, okay, that notebook's going to remember it for me now. I'm just going to continue trying to enjoy the thing that I'm doing right now instead of my brain running everywhere. Yeah, and some other things is like, for example, not making at all. Go and binge watch a TV, enjoy and be mindful when you're eating a meal. You know, just try to take moments where you're completely present in doing what you're doing without your brain running everywhere. Take time away from making. I think that's a good one. Go for a walk. Go and do something that doesn't require brain energy, because I feel burnout comes straight from the brain. Yeah.
Banger. Yeah.
That's a great note to end on.